Hello, listeners. How are you this week? Welcome to episode 82 of Push2Plat. Look, it's a bit of a PlayStation podcast, I'm told, about trophies and games. But, look, I think it covers a bit of everything. We are very lucky today to have a returning guest. She is the wonderful host of the Gamestuff Podcast. She's a sometimes PlayStation player, a sometimes holder of the Xbox controller, but what she is she's an advocate of the PC master race. She has been a member of the next gen for a lot longer than any of you PS5 or Xbox Series X fanboys. She's here today to drop some love of games onto us, as well as a bit of retro gaming. It's been a while since we've touched on any emulators or retro machines, so I'm looking forward to diving into that today. But look, let me start off by welcoming good friend of the show, Kalai. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me again, CJ. I've been looking forward to this.
Excellent, excellent. Well, as we said, low bar at the start of the show, and it can only go erectly up in that position. A bit like the game we were talking in the pre-show, but we're not going to sully the regular listeners' ears with that, Kalai. So, look, I want to just start off with, first off, the hype that has been around these new machines. As I said, you are a PC gamer. What do you think about all this? Because ultimately, you're playing on a system which is still more powerful than either of the two next-gen systems. What do you think about all this hoopla around the new systems? Are you excited? Do you not care at all?
I'm excited for everybody that wants to play. I am disappointed in both of them in the fact that you cannot get them.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a shame. I want everybody to be able to play and experience this next gen, including the SSD and of course the ray tracing. It just makes games look beautiful. So I'm really hoping that they do get stock. My goal is to eventually have one, have both actually, because I do sometimes like to lay in. I have a yoga bow, which is a big beanbag chair. I like to lay in my big bean chair and look up at my TV and play. Like I'm a kid again.
I like that. Yeah, look, what I want to ask you then is, the pricing of these, and look, I'm going to refer to Australian pricing here because I don't have the American pricing offhand, but they're both the same. The system's coming in at around 750 Australian. That is still significantly cheaper, Kalai, than buying a PC of similar specs. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, that's a fair statement, yeah.
So one of the things that attracts me about console gaming, obviously, is that you turn the system on and then it works every time, pretty much, One of the things with the PC, and admittedly, I'm not a PC gamer or whatever, client. I bought some sort of a laptop that will run a fair few games now. And about a week ago, I hadn't played anything on it ages. I'm like, I'll fire up something old, and it wouldn't go. And I spent like 20 minutes, and then I realized I had to update the drivers because the graphics, because it doesn't do it by itself for some reason. It's probably me. But it's just these little steps that you have to do. So over the years, you've obviously learned how all these steps work, but don't you find it today still more frustrating than a console? Or are you at the point now where you know what's going on, it's super simple?
Well, I've turned on my PlayStation and had to update that, so I don't see how that's any different than my PC.
Well, the only difference is the PlayStation updates don't do anything. At least the PC updates will do something, I'm told.
Yeah, I know. I'm just used to it. I'm very lucky. So I want your listeners to understand this. I am very lucky. I have a dedicated 1 terabyte line into my house. So when I do an update, it doesn't take me that long to do.
1 terabyte. Most of this country runs on megabytes still. That is wonderful.
Yeah, well, we had the opportunity to finally get a FiOS, which is like a terabyte or it's gigabyte or whatever it is. It's a lot. In fact, I was playing, my friends were playing, what were they playing? Half-Life? No, not Half-Life. Oh, God, the other one from the orange box. Oh, it's been a long day, listeners. I'm so sorry. So they were playing a team game, and I was like, oh, I want to play. Team Fortress, that's what they were playing. I was like, I want to play. I was like, oh, I have to download it. Just give me 5 minutes. They're like, oh no, we'll see you in 3 days. And my other friend went, no, she'll be done in 5 minutes. And in 5 minutes, I downloaded like 15, 20 gigabyte game.
Look, I have to ask, with the connection that good, and I know that you do enjoy the old multiplayer game, how do you sort of get away with, explaining when you get the shits with the game and you suddenly get dropped from the lobby there? Because it's not going to be very believable anymore, is it, with such a good internet?
Well, then you tell everybody that you're not hosting, and so obviously the guy that was hosting has Walmart internet.
I see. You're well versed in this. Now, look, from a technical standpoint, I'm a small-brained individual, and I'm happy to hold that flag up high. Many of us out there. What I want to ask is these two words. They're lovely words, Kalai. They're sexy words. They're what I'm waiting for in the Xbox. I know they're in the PS5 as well. I have a sneaking suspicion not too many people understand what these two words even mean, even though they love to say them. Ray tracing. What is this?
Ray tracing is the way the light is perceived in your game. So it actually makes it more believable and it gives you more options, more shading. And I was lucky enough to play Control on my PC with ray tracing, and it was gorgeous and it was beautiful and it was like I was really there.
So to a small brain individual, you talk about the light. Is it sort of like, it's different from HDR though, isn't it? It's different to the whitest whites and the blackest blacks.
Yes, because ray tracing is dynamic. It takes where the position of the sun is supposed to be in like a game like Red Dead Redemption and actually casts the shadow.
Okay.
And as you move, the shadow moves because of the time of day, because of your position. It takes account all of that.
Yeah, okay. So it's very immersive, I imagine, within the game. So what I want to ask, and again, I didn't prep you on this, so look, if you don't know, you don't want to comment, that's totally fine. But obviously you can spend $1 million and $2 million on graphics cards, TI, blah, 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 whatever you need to buy on the PC end. Is the ray tracing that's available in these consoles, obviously for only, the $750 Australian, is it comparable? We're obviously going to notice it, but obviously not to the same extent we would on a proper NVIDIA, I believe. Is that, if that's correct, graphics card? Or
well, it's really hard to say. I can't actually attest to that because as of right now, the only thing to have ray tracing is the NVIDIA card, which means the AMDs, which power all the consoles, don't have it. So I couldn't tell you what it would be like because I haven't seen it, but I wouldn't see why you guys wouldn't experience as much as I. I do know from research that you might want to have the proper TV. Hence why I don't know if I didn't tell you. So, as a PC Master Race person, we talk about our frame rates. The higher the frame rate, the less skipping, the better your quality looks. On most TVs, you cannot get higher than a 60 frames per second. You're locked. Most consoles play at about 30. As a PC, my personal one pays at 100. I max out at 100. So, of course, we're making fun of my husband who's playing on a TV. So he went out and bought a new TV last week. He got the new LG OLED, which is perfect for the new consoles. Nice. Yeah. So I'm like, well, now I want a new TV.
So look, that was my next question. I want to go into monitors and TVs because obviously, all this sort of stuff in these consoles, obviously some of it at least has got to be dependent on the TV that you're running, doesn't it? And I know if you don't have a 4K TV, obviously you're not going to see in 4K, or whatever else. But then, as you say, like the LG OLED there, the CX or whichever one that he got there, it's an amazing TV or whatever. But your experience is going to be largely dictated by the quality of the TV you have, isn't it?
It is, especially with PlayStation, because I believe PlayStation can't do 1080, if I'm correct. I could be wrong about that. If I'm wrong, please don't come at me, guys. I'm so sorry. But they were saying that if you don't have a 4K TV, the PlayStation 5 isn't going to look as good, which I find to be a problem. Because, let's face it, not everybody can go out and afford to buy a $2,000 TV to play a game on.
Yeah, that's very true. Now, it's funny you mentioned that because I did want to get on to all that topic or whatever, but I did, look, I'm an aging gentleman and I thought it was time that I, retired the old black and white TV and actually bought something decent for myself. I've always had just cheap and nasties, which have always done the job, Kalai, there's been no problem. But I thought it was time to buy myself one. So look, I got one of the LG ones earlier this year as well. And, we won't talk about the cost. I definitely haven't told my partner that yet. And But look, it is a wonderful TV, and it's not just for gaming. That was the intention, but now for watching movies, Netflix, everything, it's become the main TV. But what I wanted to ask you is, now this is another very sexy word, Kalai. It's a word that I don't understand, but when I was in there buying it, the young dude, quite attractive young dude who was selling it or whatever, he was doing the hard sell, the refresh rates, all this, and then he said to me, "Do you want a G string with it?" And I thought, well, what is that? We can go in the back room if you like, but that's not what he meant, Kalai. I misheard him. It was G-Sync. The TV comes with G-Sync. What is G-Sync?
G-Sync is a technology that will lock the TV's rate to your graphics card rate, so that way they're the same. G-Sync is not used as much as FreeSync is, which does the same thing. FreeSync does the AMD side. G-Sync does the NVIDIA graphic cards. And it's very hard to get them to interwind and work. But yes, so if my max is 100 hertz on my TV, then the G-Sync will max it to 100. It won't go overboard. Yeah. It won't max out your graphical settings or your TV to make it look bad.
So it's a good thing then.
It can be a good thing. Like I said, I don't play with it much because I have a FreeSync monitor, because for whatever reason, G-Syncs are way more expensive than the FreeSync. They're starting to come down in price, which is really nice, because I do stuff like curved monitors, and when it comes to curved monitors, they like to jack up the price when they add stuff like G-Sync.
Well, there you go, listeners. Maybe some research is required, much like a G-string. It can be a good investment if worn in the right places. So that's G-Sync. Excellent. So, look, I promise you this is not a hard sell for specs or whatever else, because I'm way out of my depth, Kalai. But that was really interesting, because they are words that I've wanted to know for some time. Now, I want to go to the complete other end of the spectrum, if we can, to this Evercade machine. Now, am I right in saying this is an emulator, isn't it, this machine?
Well, no, it's not really an emulator, to be honest with you.
Well, what is it?
So, the Evercade, it's based out of the UK. It's a company that did a retro arcade handheld system. And they produce actual cartridges for the system. So you get cartridges that you stick into it. Each cartridge can contain anywhere between 6 and 20 games, and they run about $20 US. I'm sorry, I don't know what that is in Australian money.
Probably about 1,000, but yes, we get the picture.
But they are constantly working with developers to update the actual software and the hardware. So they're taking older games that had problems and fixing those problems and putting them out on cartridges.
Yeah. Okay, so when I first saw you get this, it was earlier in the year, I believe. You ordered one and you received it. I I read it and I looked at it and I thought, oh, this is just like a gimmick. There'll be like 1 or 2 cartridges and that'll be the end. But I looked today and there's like over 18 cartridges available now. So there's 200 plus games or something. So this is a project that's obviously going to be supported into the future as well.
Yes, and they actually have newer developers, not just arcade classics. So you have everything from Pac-Man to Xenocrisis, Tanglewood. I think Foxyland is coming, which is a Ride-a-Laka game. So they're supporting everything, little developers to older stuff.
Yeah, I see they even have a Worms cartridge as well.
Yes, Worms cartridge. Earthworm Jim.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so what I want to ask you then, how has your experience been with playing these sort of things, or this thing?
Oh, fantastic. I've been playing the older RPGs. I got the Pico collection, which has a lot of the RPG games. I'm a big RPG fan.
Now, you also... Oh, yes, please.
I was going to say I also played Burger Time. I played... there's this one game where you just ate ice cream, and Evercade has been doing a contest to see who has the highest score, and you can win a free Evercades and stuff. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to participate in it. Dude, no. They allow... Because the system allows save states, and they allowed save states in the actual contest. So people maxed out the score. It's not happening.
Yes, they're good like that, aren't they? Can I ask, is there any online interactivity with this, or is it's a totally offline machine?
It's a totally offline machine. However, you can hook it up to your TV. It actually has a HDMI port, but it has the mini HDMI, which we figured out. However, the one experience I did have with that is the first cable I bought didn't fit right, so it kept falling out. And when it comes out, it automatically turns the system off. So you have to really like research which is the best cable to play on your PC. But there are games on it that, like Pac-Man. Pac-Man is you could play 2-player. You know, in the arcade, you take turns. Well, you can play at home now and take turns. You just swap the console back and forth while you play it on your TV.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, when I was reading about it this morning and watching the thing in the back of my mind was about game preservation, because I know the Xbox is trying with its backwards compatibility, and look, it's done a great job or whatever else, but there isn't really any, fixed machine at the moment that's in this game. I know you can run emulators, but on your PC, but that's a bit of a nightmare within itself sometimes, or you can download ROMs or whatever else. But this thing does definitely appear, by going through the games list this morning, that it almost could become, I suppose, a games preservation machine as well. A nostalgia trip, which I'm sure it must be for you, because you were gaming at the time a lot of these games were first around.
Yeah, I do like it for the nostalgia factor. A lot of the games, which, by the way, I don't. Just to like bring it back to the like Xbox stuff, I wanted to tell you. Did you see that the Xbox has can run PlayStation 2 games better than the PlayStation 5?
Well, really, we have to be careful here, Kalai, because this is a PlayStation show, as you know.
I know that. Well, I know, but you can play PlayStation 2 games on an Xbox Series X, but you can't on a PlayStation 5.
That's true. But look, in its defense, I hear, listeners, that the PlayStation 5 at the moment is outperforming the Xbox Series X on a lot of the AAA new-gen games. So perhaps there's going to be a role reversal. Perhaps Microsoft will be known for their retro games into the future. Wouldn't that be a wonderful switch? Because the other thing, I don't want to detract back to that, but the other thing I was looking at some Digital Foundry stuff, is that the PS5 at the moment is definitely outperforming. It's not a joke or a whatever, outperforming the Xbox Series X on games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dirt 5, and the general theory is that maybe the systems were out in the wild for developers earlier than Microsoft, so they've actually had more time to adjust the games to it. But and Microsoft games may catch up into the future, the performance. But I found that very interesting, because I was sort of under the impression that it was going to be more the other way, at least at launch.
Yeah, I agree. I have been seeing a lot of stuff like that, and I'm getting sent a lot of articles about how the PlayStation 5 is so much better than the Xbox Series X. But
yes, there are people that believe that, I believe. Tragic.
However, I don't think Xbox raised the prices on their games.
Yeah, that's true. That is very true. Yeah. Now, look, let's come back a little bit to the Evercade, because I'm not finished there. You've obviously ordered quite a few cartridges now. What are your sort of, if you were going to buy this thing, and it looks like it's selling for around $80 US, so it's not an exorbitant price by any stretch for the console. Does the console, I couldn't find, does it come with a cartridge, or could you recommend some of these cartridges out of these ones that you've had so far?
So for $80, you get the system and one cartridge. For $99, you get the system and 3 cartridges.
That's a pretty good deal.
It is a really good deal. It is a really good deal. So I'm supporting them because they're trying to preserve a lot of these games and even fix some of these games. I would definitely recommend the Pico collection. It has a game called Battle Saga, which is an RPG akin to like Chrono Trigger. It's the old 16-bit. Which I'm having a lot of fun playing. Let's see, what else? Of course, there's the Atari collection. I mean, there's just so many. There's the Namco collection, if you'd like Pac-Man. I mean, Xenocrisis alone is a really good game. They have a Xenocrisis, which is a shmup. Interplay. I mean, there's just so many I would love to see. And I have a lot. I have so many at this point. Some of them aren't even open. And I got lucky enough that I ordered one of them from a company called Songbird Productions. and he had actually done a game for the Atari Lynx cartridge that went out there. So he sent me a message and asked me if I wanted him to sign my copy of the Atari Lynx, and he did sign it for me. So I actually have a signed copy of one of the games.
That's fantastic. I love that. One of the things that you mentioned too, obviously, I'm not attracted to these games because by and large they're way tougher than the modern games that are released today. But you did say that it does have a save state. Save state. That's right. Yeah, that's something that's very attractive to me. Are you a gamer that needs the save state, or are you skilled enough in your ways to avoid the use of that?
I'm old enough that I use save states.
I like it. It's very well handled.
Just, it makes it more accessible. It makes it maybe with these save states, you'll think about playing a game you've never played before that's older, and then you'll be like, oh wow, this is amazing because I have save states. So I'm all for save states.
Yeah, no. Look, I definitely am as well. Now, look, I do want to shuffle over to what you've sort of been playing, and for the rest of the episode, we'll talk some games and stuff. But before we do, there's something that came up recently on the Gamestuff podcast, which you host, and it's something we don't hear a lot about. And I suppose, like, I'm very conscious that a lot of the listenership of this audience is younger than us, but there's also some that are mature like us. There might even be one or two that are older than us, Kalai, but I don't believe it, out there. So this is a very real thing. And you talked about this, like, tennis elbow or gamer's elbow. And it's so funny because a few months ago, I was playing Ghost of Tsushima, which can be a highly button mashy game. And I probably played 60 hours over the pace of maybe 2 weeks or something, or 3 weeks. So it was pretty hardcore for me. And I got severe pains in my hand and my arm. And, you know, I've had that before and I just keep playing because, you know, why not, Kalai? Why not? But it got so bad that even at work, like, I just couldn't move my arm. And that's when I knew I really needed to stop. And I'd get these shooting pains out of nowhere or whatever. And it was just from the RSI, from this repetitive, you know, thumb movement in particular. And, you know, I took a week or two off and it sort of cured itself or whatever. But you mentioned that it became a bit of an issue for you as well. And you joked about because of playing too much games. But I'd love if you could just talk a little bit about that experience. So
I was having, my mom said I had tendinitis. She's a registered nurse. And she was like, I was like, should I go to the doctor? She's like, no, you shouldn't go to the doctor. There's nothing they could do. And finally, I broke down and I went to the doctors because I was just, after like 3-4 weeks, actually, it was a couple of months, I was still in pain. It turns out I was diagnosed with what's called golfer's elbow. It's the repetitive use of the actual wrist. And what it does is it affects the elbow and it affects the shoulder. And on top of that, I have, it was called Little League's elbow, which is like there was a section of bursar, it's called the bursar in your elbow, that actually was where the pain was radiating from. So my doctor was like, we're going to give you a cortisone shot, which should help with the pain. I was wearing a tendinitis band around my arm, which was right below the elbow. And what that did was compress my band, which made the pain stop hurting a lot. But then he decided I needed to wear a wrist guard, a stint, just like if I had, from using a keyboard too much, you get that problem in your wrist. So now I have to wear both of these, and now I'm like, I can't stop gaming. So now I'm trying to hold a controller with all these braces on, and I'm like trying to play games, and I'm like, this isn't working. Oh my god, what if I can never play games again? Oh god, I'm gonna kill myself. So my husband's like, play games like Fire Emblem, because you don't have a lot of rapid movement. You can sit and I was like, good idea. So now I'm like playing like. It was bad. It was bad.
It's so funny you say that because when it happened to me, the first 4 or 5 days, I was like, oh, it'll be fine. And then I noticed it, particularly at work, like in one hand, it was really hard to hold stuff because I was getting the pains and stuff. And so I did a bit of WebMD, as you do, you know, and I realized I wasn't about to die at that point. But
really?
One of the
if you're WebMD, I thought you had cancer.
That's right. Well, not today, touch wood. But I looked at it and it had a few gamers stretches, which I thought was interesting because it's it's a physical sport gaming, obviously, Kalai, so you do need to do your stretches. That was my fault. But then the main tip was that you just need to stop playing for a while. And my brain was like, well, that's probably not going to happen. So we'll just avoid that tip. And of course, it got worse and worse. And it got to the point where I was like, I'll just push through it. A bit like you were obviously doing till it got, far worse for you or whatever. And the logic in me, I'm not a young man, as I've said, but the logic in me was like, well, if I just keep going, something's going to happen. It's either going to get better or a hell of a lot worse. And I did actually have to stop for a week because it wasn't going to get better. But it's funny to hear you say that you're still trying to game around everything else. That's
and then I was like, I should really stop. So then I started reading an actual book, and my husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm reading a book. I have plenty of books. He's like, but you should read on your iPad.
It's a funny thing because, most males, you build up very strong wrist strength in your, when you're 12 and 13. So you think you're going to be good, with your wrist action for the rest of your life from that period, Kalai. But it doesn't hold true, unfortunately. Maybe it's overuse at that age. I'm not sure, but it comes back and bites you. But look, it's a thing it's a real thing, I suppose. Now, why don't we shift across to what you've been playing? Now, I don't normally here I have a rough idea because I bring up profiles, but I'm going to be totally led by you here. I have no idea, which makes it quite exciting. But what would you like to share with us? What have you been playing? What have you been enjoying?
So for the backlog beatdown, I actually opened up a game that I bought, a year and a half ago. It was still in the wrapper, too. I started Mass Effect Andromeda.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why? What's all the hype around this game? Why is this game so bad? I'm like, it's not too bad. And then I had an entire section where my character was talking and no words were coming out.
Is this on the PC you're playing this or console?
No, I had bought it for the PlayStation.
Okay. So I played a little bit of this game when it first came out. Now, my understanding it has been hugely fixed, but one of the biggest issues was, of course, there was no emotion, no movement on the face when they were talking or whatever else. A lot of that, I think, has been addressed. I think the game's been made more stable. Apart from that experience, would you agree it's playable now, or...?
I mean, I'm a big fan of the Mass Effect games, so for me, I was just like, it's a Mass Effect. It feels like a Mass Effect. You know what I mean? So, I didn't even notice about the facial. That might be bad, but I didn't really notice.
Well, I do think they fixed it. Is this brought on by the fact that there's rumours, I don't believe it's yet been confirmed, that there will be a remaster of some sort of the Mass Effect series?
Not the remaster, is it? They're making another game?
Oh, they're making another one, is it? Ah, okay. I didn't know, because I know EA has a bit of a policy on remasters or not doing them, but they, of course, then go and do them, like Burnout and things like that. So I'm not sure. Okay, what else have you got there you can throw at us?
I've been playing Fire Emblem, 3 Houses. I am 50 hours in, and I just hit the 50% mark.
So now this a game, of course, for the Switch or whatever. It's another wonderful game I downloaded but have never played yet, Kalai. What am I in for in this game? Talk to me about it.
I like this game because it takes the JRPG and it has a different twist on it. I grew up a huge chess fan, and the combat, which is tactical combat on a grid, to me is like a very elaborate game of chess. Combined with the fact that you want to build your relationships and teach your students at the same time. So necessarily to make your characters better and to increase their stats, it might not be just, oh, hey, let's do battle after battle, or I have to grind this battle. It might be going fishing and creating a meal and having a meal with your students, or having tea time, or, learning from your teachers. I like it. I love it.
Yeah, now I want to ask you about this game, though, because I think I could be wrong here, so do correct me. Is this a game where, in effect, you have permanent death for your characters, that if they do die, they're gone?
Yes and no. The original series did have permadeath. In the later series, to make it an easier access for people, they took the option away. So the option is still there for permadeath, but you do not have to play with it. I personally do not play with it. I played one of the games with the entire game I did as permadeath. I kid you not. My husband called it rage quitting. I would kill a character, rage quit. I'd kill a character, rage quit. And I would rage quit the scenario over and over and over again, because eventually, if you don't have enough people at the end of the game, you won't be able to do the last scenario.
Yeah. See, this is one of the problems I have with permadeath in characters, and like, it's really interesting because I just, recently played Watch Dogs Legions that does have a permadeath option for your characters, but characters in that game are different from characters in most, RPGs, in that you can have as many as you like and you can change whenever you want. So you perhaps don't have the relationship with the characters that you would have, particularly in a JRPG. But even in that game, I was like, I'm not going to put like 20 minutes, an hour, 4 or 5 hours into this character and then have them go, because I made a mistake or they died or whatever. That would very much frustrate me. And I can only imagine in a game that's, look, 100 plus hours, I believe, a Fire Emblem there. It's got to be frustrating, don't you think, to have that as an option?
Yes, I would play like a scenario, and in the middle, and I'd save before the scenario, and in the middle of the scenario, I'd die, turn off the system, reload the save, and start from the very beginning of the battle. So I turned it off for these games. I'm just playing to enjoy it. So if my guy dies, he'll be back the next battle.
Yeah. Now, I want to pick up on a point there, playing for enjoyment if we can, because I know that, you might dabble in trophy hunting or whatever else, and I'm sure this is no offense to you, but you're not really a trophy hunter. You're not addled by the curse of achievements or whatever else. Like you dip your toe in them or whatever, but you won't let your gaming experience be defined by them. When you play a game on the Switch, and I know you're not adverse to playing some very long games on the Switch, including Xenoblade Chronicles and the such, what drives you forward? Because it's just the game and the story, is it? Because there is no in-game achievements, I believe, and there's no overall system on Nintendo for achievements. And I know for many of our audience, they'd be like, well, why the fuck do you bother then? But there is more to gaming, obviously, than that. But what drives you and what motivates you in games that are so long, 100 plus hour games like this, like Xenoblade Chronicles?
The story, mostly, and the way they implement leveling up. Because you got to remember, I grew up so long ago where where Pac-Man, in Pac-Man you didn't have a story. You just had Pac-Man. He ate pellets, fell in love, ate more pellets. So, and then of course I got into games like Final Fantasy and Zelda. And those games are fantastic. They have a leveling up system. But what I find interesting about these games that I'm playing is the way they implement the level up system. And I like games that don't insist on the grind.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy is big on the grind. Whereas games like Xenoblade have such great quest lines that you do all these quests and you're leveled up. Or the first one, pick up everything. Anything you could pick up, you'd pick up. I'd pick up a quest and I immediately turned it in because I picked up all the items. There was no such thing as a quest item. It was an item they were looking for in the world. Even with Code Vein, which is almost an anime style game, they don't have a level up system like anybody else. They have a job system where you can level each job and you don't necessarily need to equip the job to level. And then you can switch jobs freely depending on what type of situation you're in.
Yeah. I see. I like that sort of thing, and I like hearing it coming from someone it's coming from a different position, because I think a lot of the audience that listens or whatever, if they're playing some of these JRPGs, they intend to get the platinum or the 1000G, and often that involves insane trophies like, reaching max level with every character, or friendship bonds, particularly in JRPGs with other characters, which involves just monotonous actions or whatever. For in my view, it sort of kills the game. But then on the flip side, we get this situation which comes, and I know you haven't played this yet, but the new Yakuza game, Yakuza 7, where the game runs along fine, I'm told, for about 70 hours, and then you hit this massive wall where it just gets so difficult at the end that you need to almost do 10 hours of grinding, despite even, having built up your level as you go, almost a fixed spot of 10 hours of grinding before you can get through to the last part of the game. And that sort of stuff is a massive turn-off to me in any game, but particularly in a long game. So I can imagine for you it must be much the same.
Yes, and stuff like Xenoblades, the other reason I like the game is the way they address traveling. So if I get to a boss and I can't beat that boss, there's usually a travel point right outside the boss. So I can travel to a different area, do a whole bunch of quests, and travel right back to the boss. I don't have to grind through the entire slug of getting to the boss again.
Mm. Mm.
So it's more accessible and it's easier for me to handle.
Yeah, I like that. Now, look, I want to throw one out at you. I'm not sure if this series interests you or not, a Nintendo Switch game or whatever here. The Hyrule Warriors, and of course the recent release, the Hyrule Age of Calamity, which is loosely based on the Breath of the Wild, but it plays like a Musou game, I'm told. Does this series hold any interest for you, or do you have any background with it?
I played the Fire Emblem version for about 20 minutes.
Ah, okay.
Sorry. That's my other host. If you want to talk about those games, you got to have Joe on.
I know. Well, the funny thing is, good friends over at the R3 Cents podcast, the wonderfully learned gamers over there, they are in their Discord. They've been pushing this Age of Calamity game for ages and ages. So the other day, I thought it's time to move the Switch off this piece of paper, Kalai. It's not a paperweight. I'm going to put it on the desk instead to hold the books. But before that, I thought maybe I'll play something on it. And I thought, well, the Age of Calamity, it sounds like a good idea because it's a button masher or whatever else, but again, early on, and it seems like there could be grind in this game too. So I don't know. I suppose we're going to find out as we go. One of the games I'm really interested in hearing you talk about is Code Vein. It's a game that I started and I felt like, oh, this is going to be a Soulsborne game. It's just going to be way too difficult. I spent about 20 minutes in it, in the tutorial, really getting into it, dying a little bit or whatever else. But, here we go. I'm going to get there. All of a sudden, blue screen of death. The game had just, fucked itself because I died so many times and told me not to play it anymore. And so a little disheartened, I deleted it and have never returned. But talk to me about this game, and is it approachable for a low-skilled gamer like myself?
I think it's very approachable because you can get help. What system are you playing it on?
A PS4.
Okay, that's interesting.
Fair enough. Oh, really?
Yeah. Being I have a PC and have a lot more complication, I've never had a blue screen of death on a...
See, there's fanboyism between the PlayStation and the Xbox, but it goes to a whole new level when you look up at God on the PC there, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, the reason I play on PC is I have a lot of friends that fit my time schedule and my sleep, so...
Yeah, so when you say people can help you, is it like, I don't know if you played Bloodborne, but is it like you just do a little bit and then you can call people into your game basically whenever you want? Is that how it works?
So I haven't really played Bloodborne multiplayer, but let me explain. I played Code Vein multiplayer the other day. So me and my friend decided to play the game, so I jumped into his game. As you go through the board, there's these things called missiles that you can rest at. They're almost like checkpoints. You can't save your game unless you're quitting, but they're like checkpoints. When you die, you go back to that area. You can also rest to replenish your health potion supply. In the game, you can get items that will increase the number of health potions you can have. So when I jumped into my friend's game, I had 4 health potions I could heal for. As soon as I jumped into my friend's game, that got half to 2.
Oh, okay.
I was like, what? So, yes. I was like, well, that's alright, because all I have to do is stop off at a missile, and if I stop off at the missile, I can rest, and I could actually recharge my health. Can't do that in multiplayer. And neither can the guy's game you jumped into.
Okay.
So we were like jumping out and healing ourselves and jumping back in before boss fights. But it's like I said, it's very interesting because in Bloodborne, you have to like find your weapons and slowly open up your classes. In Code Vein, you get like 4 classes to start off with: the ranger, the wizard. They might have opened up, and like in the game, you open up very quickly. You open up other things like berserker and stuff. And I was looking through the wiki today. There's like 30 different classes, and you can freely switch between those classes. So you can level up each class. You don't even have to switch to them to level up, and then you can switch to it when you need it. So you can try different playstyles.
Yeah, okay, I like that. But looking more on the single player side, and like again, I know when this game came out, there was a lot of hype, and then it backed away very quickly. Not because I don't think it was good or whatever. It's just these things, they come and go. You know, there's so much coming out all the time. And again, I'm not sure how much of this you've played so far, but is there a story there? And is it enough to drive the game, or is it mainly just the gameplay that you're enjoying?
There is a story there. It's really bizarre. It's almost Kingdom Hearts bizarre. I actually had to read the wiki.
Oh, okay.
Something happened in the world, and now you are thirsty all the time, and you need blood, and you can give up your memories to. Yeah, it's almost Kingdom Hearts like.
Okay.
But I can put hats on my character, so that's all right.
So therefore, it's a valid game. I like that. Now, look, I'm not going to let you escape today without giving some love to the PC. I know you play a lot of games there. I want to do a little check-in on a game first, but then by all means, feel free to drop any other games on us that you would like to do. And of course, I see you often playing this there via the Discord there. It is Civilization 6. How are you going on your campaigns to take over the world there?
Well, I don't play that game single player.
I know.
I play it multiplayer.
As it should
5
be.
or 6 people. And eventually we just quit after 12 hours. And we declare a winner.
It's one of the greatest time sink games, I think, isn't it, of all time?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been playing Civilization for years. Since 3. We're on 6.
Yeah.
When 5 came out, my husband, who's a bigger Civ fan than I am, joined a contest. Sid Meier ran a contest, and the way it worked was they were given a scenario, and you had X amount of days to complete the scenario. And I forget what the win condition was. It was something to do with how long it took or whatever. So my husband, who had to work the next day, was up till 2:00 in the morning completing the scenario to submit for the contest. And here I am. I'm like, why are you doing this? You're not even going to win. We never win anything. So he submitted, and he was the only one that followed the rules to the scenario, so he won.
I love that. It's so funny you say that, staying up till all hours, because that's my memories of. I know you can play these games on console, and I know more and more of these games are coming, but it doesn't feel at home to be on console. There's too much going on to play that thing on a controller. You need the mouse and keyboard. Well, look, at least I do. But I remember back to a time before I played any of these PlayStations and things, and really loving that game. But predominantly I played, single player, because I don't even know that we had internet or proper internet at that point. And it just was I don't know. I didn't keep up with. I think I dropped off about Civ 4. So when I tried to play 5, there was a lot more going on, I think. But the core mechanics of that game, and I imagine when you're playing against people or whatever, it's more enjoyable, it's more random, but the more you played against it, you could see how the AI thought, at various difficulty levels. You could almost predict what they were going to do, and it was such a god simulator for me, I think, because you were sort of thinking about what you were going to do while thinking about what the AI was going to do as well. And I don't know, does that transition to playing with real people, or is it much more of a, you've got to play your own style because they're going to do whatever they're going to do?
Well, with my group, the one thing we agree on is no war, because we don't want somebody to be forced out of the game because they don't. Yeah, so that was our own rule. But that being said, all of my friends watch YouTubes and find out the best strategies on playing the game. That's all right. Wait, it gets better. Because they keep updating this game and adding all kinds of new random stuff to it, which is fantastic for 6. And one of the things they added is you can hide and shuffle the tech tree. So I made my husband start doing that with all of our friends. So although those walkthroughs, we're all on an even playing field because nobody can see exactly where the next step in the line is.
Oh, you shuffle them before you start, or you can shuffle them as you're actually playing?
So what it does is it hides all of the tech trees. They're still going to be where they're going to be, but not necessarily the bottom one might not be the one you expect it to be. It shuffles it in the column or the row. It shuffles in the row and then hides everything.
So it's becoming more like gambling almost. You don't know which one you're going to unlock.
Exactly. So it made all my friends who are into strategy and doing the exact same thing. I was losing because they watch so much strategy videos, whereas I don't have that kind of time or energy. I'd rather play other games. So they can't do that because they're all hidden.
Oh,
Also,
that's
with
wonderful.
Civ 6, I don't know if you realize this or not. There's natural disasters, volcanoes,
Hmm.
flooding, which is really interesting. There is the Dark Age, the Golden Age, where you can your people are so happy you have a golden age, so you have prosperity, or they're so terrible you have a dark age.
It's so funny because, like, I'm basically work has basically finished up for the year now, so time's really starting to free up. And I was literally thinking last night, as I was finishing up some stuff, I was like, I'll know the holidays have begun when I turn on this laptop or whatever, and I open up a sim style game, whether it be Civilization 6, or I've had my eye on the Planet Coaster as well, because I want to get that old. I don't know if you ever played the old theme park world from years and years ago, but I quite enjoyed that, and I think I'm ready to lose myself in a game like that, And as you say, like 10 hours just goes out of nowhere. And what I always loved about it too, and it's similar to how I play a lot of the console games, is I just leave them on and I just play a little bit and then I'll go do something else. And then I know you can't do this with other people playing, but if it's solo, you can. And just play as you like in these turn-based style games. I think there's a lot to be said for that, especially, if you've got other things going on.
Yeah, so I don't know if you know this, Civ 6 is actually on the Switch.
Yes, I know, but look, does it really hold up on the Switch?
Well, sort of. So a lot of it, if you play in handheld mode, is touch controls.
Oh, okay.
Which isn't bad, except that when you get really far into the game, it slogs like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah. See, that's what like I remember back in the day, Kalai, when we had the old PC and you'd play and you'd do everything and it'd say, okay, press enter to end the turn, and you'd be like, okay, well, when I press enter, I can go get a coffee, I can go walk the dog, I'll read the newspaper, I'll be back in 25 minutes and it'll be my go. And that's just because it took the computer so long to crunch out the whole map that it was insane. But I mean, we don't live in that time, but I'm worried that the Switch late endgame may emulate that sort of a time.
Can I recommend a god game for you?
Please.
Birthday's the Beginning.
Okay, what is this? I've never heard of it.
I actually got lucky enough to win a copy from a contest. It is a world building where you are God and you're creating the world, and as you create the world, depending on how you create the world, what organisms will develop.
Oh, okay. What system are we talking? Is this PC or?
I think it's on all the systems.
Okay, I'll check that and put it in there.
Yeah, and I think if you're good enough, you can actually create dinosaurs.
That's fantastic. Okay, so this is Birthday's the Beginning. I'll look into this. That's wonderful. Now, is there any other games you'd like to drop on us? I'm conscious of keeping you and the time as we approach the hour mark, I suppose. Anything else you'd like to throw at us?
Let's see. Code Vein we talked about. Monster Hunter. I've been playing Monster Hunter because I'm a big fan, and December 4th, the movie comes out. Did you see that?
Is there a movie of Monster Hunter?
Yes! There's a movie. Do you know who stars in it?
I have no idea.
Oh, God. Mila Jovovich?
Oh, okay. Is there an actual character in that game, though? Or is it's just like playing like a playable character, like a person sort of thing?
In Monster Hunter?
Yeah, like to make a movie on it. There's no real story, is there? Like, no storyline.
Well, there isn't actually a storyline in Monster Hunter. I couldn't tell you what it is. Because, I have played 100 of them, but I couldn't tell you what any of the stories are, because you really don't pay for the story.
No.
In the movie, it's about an army, an army platoon, or I guess an army, a small platoon, who go through a portal and end up on the Monster Hunter world.
Oh, fantastic.
I know.
Is this a straight to Netflix production?
No, I'm so mad because I want it to be, because, I'm in the United States and we're ravaged by the stupid pandemic. I want everything to come right in my house. I don't have to go out. So, no, it's going to be in theaters. But Monster Hunter is running a event for the movie in the game.
Oh, okay. This is fantastic. This sounds like it will be a janky movie. I'm warning you.
Oh, it doesn't matter. If you watch the trailer, it just brings all of the monsters I fight on a regular basis to life, and that's amazing right there. And of course, I know it's going to be a janky movie, but I'm still gonna watch it. It's like the video games awards. They're gonna be terrible, but I'm gonna watch them anyways.
That's so true. Look, I have to ask, does this movie, much like a Monster Hunter experience, run at about 300 hours?
No, actually, I don't think it does. But maybe 300 minutes.
Yeah, I like that. Well, look, I may add that to the list because I've had some wonderful recommendations from a previous guest. I'm styling on you, bro. He's discovered that I do like janky movies, and he's sent me a list. But at the top of the list, Kalai, and actually, I think you may find this movie interesting as well. I'm saving it for Christmas Eve. It will be my Christmas movie for this year. So I suppose I'm revealing my hand a bit early, but I'd like to share it with you because you and Jim, you may find something wholesome in this as well. It is called The Wonderful Santa Jaws. I don't know if you've ever heard of this movie before.
No, definitely not.
Well, you have to watch it because it's got the Jaws, but his little catchphrase, if you like, is that he has the Santa hat on his fin for the whole movie. So I think what better way than to see out this year than a man-eating shark with a Santa hat. We'll have to get you back after we've both seen it. I think so. Look, I want to thank you again for giving up your time tonight, Kalai. I really appreciate speaking to you. It is also wonderful to hear a little bit outside of just the console ecosystem, and as well at the start all those terms defined, because I love saying the words, but I have no idea what they mean. But at least now I know a little bit more. So look, if people are trying to find you, if they're trying to find the wonderful Gamestuff podcast, where can they do all this?
Our Facebook group, if you search at Gamestuff Podcast, you'll probably find our public site. We do have a private Facebook group that we do keep private, just that way in case you don't want anybody to know you're talking to us, or I don't want anybody to know that I'm talking instead of working.
That's true.
You could always find us there. We're always monitoring that 24 hours, almost 24 hours a day. You could also talk to my other hosts, Joe and Corey and Roberto. They each have different aspects of gaming that they like. We all game differently. Corey's a big PlayStation guy. Joe is a big PlayStation and Switch guy. And as far as I can tell, Roberto at this point will play anything.
Yes. Yeah, it is a wonderful mix of gaming, and with yourself as well. I mean, you're definitely all over the PC, the Switch, and the PS4. There's not a lot of Xbox love in there, but most of that catches into the PC anyway. So I feel you're pretty broad in scope.
Yeah, I try to be, because a lot of people, and you'll see this, like, oh, the Xbox isn't doing as well as the PlayStation 5, and the PlayStation 5 is so much better. What it comes down to is the games. And I've had people tell me that the Xbox Series S is a terrible system because it can't do everything the Xbox Series X can do. And, the PlayStation's mini system is better. If you can't afford to spend a lot of money on gaming, the Xbox Series S is a fantastic price, because I don't know if you guys have this over there, but we have the option to do a zero financing payment plan of like $25 a month, and it includes Game Pass, which is fantastic for people who can't afford to spend thousands of dollars on gaming.
I think that's a really good point, because, I mean, if you just waste out, at this time of year in particular, it's an expensive time of year, and then to get stung with one console, or two if you're that lucky, I suppose it's a big investment. And then also the games on top, because as you alluded to earlier in the episode, the PS5 games, they're not cheap by any stretch. The 3 games they've put out, or 4 games or whatever. So yeah, it's not a cheap endeavor. And I know, PC games are like, oh, suck the fuck up, compared to what it costs us, but it is, for a console gamer that's had a system for 8+ years, is used to paying, relatively little for games. It is a big investment, Kalai, I think you're right on.
Right. And with the Xbox, if you're a PlayStation fan and you guys, oh, the Xbox sucks, the Xbox is investing in Game Pass, and they're bringing back the console to the players, and they're saying, you know what, we have this ability for you to play anywhere, and giving anybody the chance to be able to play these and experience the games. I don't care what console you're on. If you come and tell me that Final Fantasy VII is awesome, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I played it until that one part that everybody hates. It doesn't matter if I play it on my PlayStation or play it on my PC or you play it on an Xbox Series S. It's the fact that we played it, we can discuss it.
Yeah, that's 100% true. And one of the things we didn't cover today, we'll save for next time perhaps, of course, is the PC Game Pass, which, you know, it can be lumped into the Ultimate Game Pass or it can be taken separately. It's very affordable. And it was only this morning someone mentioned it. And I said, well, look, you can probably earn enough points through the Microsoft rewards in a month to even pay for that, you know, if you don't want to put any money into it for a month or two to try it. And again, you know, I understand that PC games, you've got your Steam and everything else. But if you're a console gamer that has a PC and you just dipping your toes in the water, perhaps you don't need to buy the game, and you're more than happy to jump in there. And there are so many games on there as well. I mean, and
I know
some wonderful God games as well on there.
and the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, which is what I do, especially around this holidays, are on sale. I picked up 3 months of Xbox Ultimate for about $20, which is normally $45. And you know what they dropped on console today, on the Game Pass console?
Yes, I do. I wondered if you were going to see this control, which is wonderful timing because I almost bought it for the Xbox the other day. So
it's a good thing you didn't, because now you can play it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. No, we were only discussing that this morning. Now, look, I have just received a phone call from Phil Spencer. He's told us to stop shilling. He's not giving us any more money today, Kalai. So we'll have to leave our Xbox talk there. Thanks for that, Phil. But as I said, I really do appreciate your time. I'm hoping that you will come back again in the future to talk more games with me.
Anytime.
Thank you, Kalai.
No problem. Thank you. And thank you to my listeners. And again, please check out my podcast.
So there you go, listeners. A chat about a lot of things, I suppose. We covered some PC, a little bit of Switch love. We even threw around some of these technical terms for these wonderful new TVs and consoles that we're all embracing. But look, I do want to thank Kalai one more time and, of course, direct you to her wonderful podcast, weekly on all good podcast providers, of course, Gamestuff, discussing more than just PlayStation. But look, why don't we throw some PlayStation gaming love at you today? Now, look, bit of big news since we started the recording of this episode, and today, a few days later when I'm coming back to finishing it, the Xbox Series X did arrive. Super excited, super stoked. I don't want to dwell on it. I don't want a major orgasmly fanboy out, but I will say the setup was seamless. It's all done via the phone and the app, and it was so easy. Of course, downloading these games are massive. I didn't realize that even with the disc, you know, the new version of the game, the up-res, if it's available, of course, downloads on top. So, you know, even with this somewhat better internet now, that still took a fair bit of time. But, you know, all in 24 hours. And I know I've been a little critical at times of the new systems, and I can only imagine that on the PS5, it is the same performance that you're experiencing or have been experiencing that I've just tasted on the X now. But it has blown me away. From loading times through to the picture is phenomenal. But look, why don't we throw in some games and we can get to that. So I wanted to start with Immortal Fenyx Rising. This is the perfect cross-gen game for me, I suppose. It is a Ubisoft game. It is an Assassin's Creed style game, but it's set in the Greek mythos, in the world of sort of fantasy, I suppose. It is a wonderful, I don't want to say a clone of Breath of the Wild, but it wonderfully steps between these two series, the Assassin's Creed franchise and the Breath of the Wild. And how it does that is it sort of encompasses the exploration of Breath of the Wild, a similar art style, if you like. You can climb any of the mountains. It also borrows this idea of exploration in that there are no markers on the map like you'd be used to in your Assassin's Creed games. Now, you can climb up these giant Greek statues or even up the mountains and then take this thing they call far sight, and by looking around the map, and the controller will rumble as you find different points of interest, you can uncover them that way and then they are marked on the map, or you can just sort of free roam around. One of the amazing things about this game is that you do get wings. In fact, you get a series of wings so that you can fly. And it's something that's never been present in an Assassin's game. And it's perhaps something I wish had been present in Breath of the Wild, or the little bit that I played of it, because it does make navigating areas easier, I suppose, and also far more interesting. It works on a wonderful system where when you start the game, the wings are broken, so you can hardly fly. You just sort of jump a little bit, but then you get gliding wings and so forth and so forth. Now, I did say it is similar to Breath of the Wild, but what I like about this game is that even though it's an open world, I still have overall story quests, so I still know roughly where I'm heading. My problem with Breath of the Wild was it was just so open that I just didn't know what to do at any time, so that's definitely on me. One of the other great things about this game is there is weapon durability. The weapons don't break down like they did in Breath of the Wild. And again, maybe if you're a purist, you like that, but that is annoying as shit to me. So knowing that I've got this weapon for as long as I want is wonderful. Now, it does play on a similar game loop to Assassin's Creed, so you will be acquiring weapons with small buffs as you go. You will be acquiring multiple armor sets. Some have different benefits to different parts of the game. So as to sort of keep the game, I suppose, not broken or not too OP. So as to not gain too much OP nature in the game, they have a stamina bar, which sort of starts with 4 blue lines, if you like. Now, that's always present when you're either flying or you're climbing a mountain. If you hit the 4th one, then you fall off. You run out of stamina. You can't hold on. And just stopping on the mountain or stopping in midair won't save you. Now, as you go, you can upgrade that through a wonderful Hall of Gods, where there are plenty of options to spend your in-game currency. Now, yes, there is microtransactions that works on a similar premise to previous Assassin's Creed games to unlock cosmetics and weapons, but you will earn plenty of in-game collectibles and in-game currency, I suppose I should say. There are many currencies in this game, from gems to fruits. So if you like collecting, there's plenty of opportunity. It's very easily broken down, though, whether you're spending coins, your fruits, your gems, or what you're using your gold to acquire different weapons or to build your strength. Now, this game has a really out there sense of humor, I think, if you like. It's a story between Prometheus, who is the overall narrator throughout the game, unseen narrator for most of the game, and Zeus. They're having a conversation about the Taros, the god that they locked under the mountain throughout the game, and they're doing it through this character, or through yourself, I suppose, Fenyx. Now, I don't know how to describe it. When I started playing it, I was thinking this is like a Toys to Life game a bit like a Skylanders game almost in sort of its way, but then it's completely not. And then I was like, well, it's more Assassins, but then it's not that either. It's I suppose, more of a puzzler than Assassins is. Now, you're not going to see thousands of NPCs just wandering around like you would be used to in those games. It is a sparse game in that nature. But there are tons of puzzles, and they form in the way of rifts. So you fall down these rifts, and you do almost like a little dungeon full of puzzles. Again, another Breath of the Wild. Now, you do gain chests, you do gain abilities through these. But there are other interesting games throughout as well. There's a sound game with giant harps and small harps playing tunes, and you have to run from one side of the map remembering the tunes. There's this wonderful flight game where you play, I suppose, as a first-person arrow. If you're used to the Assassin's game, you'll know one of the abilities you can unlock is to control the arrow even after it's left the bow. This uses it in almost like a race mechanic, a race against your stamina as you race through these gates before the arrow falls. It's kind of fun. This game, though, is also kind of tricky because while the puzzles start off easy, they definitely develop, and it's one of those things that you might be trying to explore around a temple to even see how to get into it. So there is a lot of depth in this game. It's definitely not like an Assassin's game where you're always just racing forward with the story or the side quests. Having said that, it's perhaps not a game game for everyone, but it is a perfect next-gen or cross-gen, I should probably say, game. I started this on the X and then have proceeded for the next 4 or so hours on the Series X. The only major difference I noticed, the load time's not hugely, but I noticed that there was a much better use of light. But for both of them, in that art style, it actually works really well. And if you're trying to picture the art style, it's very Genshin Impact in style. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know how this game fits in against Valhalla, or if you're playing both, or if you're going to play one after the other. But if you can somehow manage it, or, throw it into next year, I'd highly recommend it. The next game I like to throw some love at is Fuser by Harmonix. Many people anticipating this next music rhythm game from the creators of the Rock Band series. And look, it doesn't fail to deliver. It is a virtual DJ sim, I suppose. It comes with a ton of songs. I want to say 40 to 60, depending on the VIP edition, I think up to 100. Yes, of course, there is going to be microtransactions as this game goes on where you can buy more songs. Looks like a subscription pass potentially as well, but there are so many songs within the game that you don't need to be worried about that, not unless you're going to be putting some serious time into it. One of the amazing things about this game is how well they've captured the music studio and I suppose the editing and mixing of music into a simplistic form. For musicians obviously used to products like Pro Tools, GarageBand, Reaper, you'll be used to things like quantize, like electronic lining up against the beat, about distorting against the beat, all these sort of features, your fade-ins, your fade-outs. This game makes this all really simple. It has a wonderful snap to beat quantize, which basically means you can line up different songs from different genres, just drop them in, and it'll snap to the best part on the beat for you. Now, as the game goes on, there is definitely variation to this. You can syncopate the beat and you can also layer the tracks, and it does this by a series of dots moving across. It can get quite complicated. Now, whether you need musical knowledge or not to play this game, look, I don't know. I don't think you do to enjoy it, but I think perhaps you do to maybe get the most out of it. But it's something that you can learn with your ears or whatever else. And one of the amazing things I've already found is how well I can mix genres. So I might take the drums from a country and throw it against a rap vocals and a hip-hop or R&B bass. There are so many variations because for every song, it breaks the song down into the bass, the drums, the keys, the vocal, and the guitar lines, and then you mix those lines within. As I said, it sounds complicated, but it's not, because you just grab the CD and drop it on the different wheel or turntable that will take care of each of those. Now, of course, it is gamified. The audience there is yelling out, they want to hear this, they want to hear a track from the 90s, they want to hear whatever in there. As you go into each concert and each stage, you actually pick a crate, they call it, of songs. It can be anywhere from 5 to 10 to 20 as the game moves on. Of course, how you set that set is completely up to you. They always advise a few songs to start, but again, you may be carrying songs the audience doesn't want to hear, or it does. And that's where I suppose the story, if you could call it, comes in. Sure, it's a little bit cheesy, but you're not playing this game for the story, although it is there. You're obviously growing as a DJ. You're playing different festivals. By looking at the person that owns the festival, or the main draw card, I suppose, the main DJ, you can get a feel for what their audience will want. Of course, all the festivals and sets are replayable. Where this game really shines, though, is in the free play section. This opens up all the songs. You can mix them however you like. It's really a wonderful experience. There is online, which I haven't really dabbled in yet, where you can go head-to-head against other DJs around the world, or you can even compete just locally in local co-op. It's a wonderful game that I'm super enjoying. I think there's value here for everybody. Will it drop in price as a base game? Look, it's highly possible, but go in knowing that down the track you may get addicted and you may want to buy more songs. Look, I can't be all glowing about new experiences, and one of the games I was really hoping would pick up on the Series X in the next-gen version was Dirt 5 by Codemasters. Unfortunately, the only praise I can sing of this game is that the loading time is phenomenally quick between races. If you spam through the reward and XP screens after the race, you can be into the next race in literally under 10 seconds. It's an amazing improvement in the load times. That, unfortunately, is about where it stands for me. Yeah, it looks better, but it doesn't look anywhere near what I would have expected from them, even running on the next-gen system. Look, it's a fun game, I suppose, but it's highly arcadey, and it gets boring quickly. You are repeating a core group of events over and over. The challenges within the event range from super easy to ridiculously, insanely difficult, but you don't even need to do the challenges to progress the events or get the platinum or 1000G. It's a real mixed bag of a game. I don't know who they were aiming it at. It's arcadey in every sense of the word. There is no simulation element in this game at all. So if you do just you're looking for a fun game or whatever, I would definitely rate it above Project Cars 3, but I would highly urge to wait for a deep sale on this game. Perhaps one of the most bizarrest things about Dirt 5 is that it has a story. It's told through a podcast, the Donut Podcast, if you'd believe it or not, between events. I don't understand why there's a story. It's not engaging in any way. It's just this game I feel has missed the mark completely. But look, you jump in, you tell me what you think if you disagree. The final game I'd like to drop some love on today is Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's another game that I've been waiting to start for some time. And look, I finally jumped in. This, for me, has been the best, I suppose, test of the new system graphically. I am playing on the LG CX OLED TV, which, yes, we talked about earlier in the episode. If there is some way you can stretch your budget or save, I would highly recommend you save for this TV. It is unbelievable. It blows my old Sony TV out of the water, which is no surprise, but it ranks really highly. We've talked about it has a 144 refresh rate and G-Sync as well. Look, who knows what those things really do, but it's doing something to make the picture phenomenal. I thought at the start of Assassins, when you end the snow there, I thought I could literally put my hand through and touch it. It's quite amazing. It does seem very early on like a hodgepodge, though, with facial animations still of something you would have seen a few years ago, interdispersed with this amazing light. And that is one of the things, if nothing else, I've seen so far from the X, and I can only assume it is the same on the PS5. The HDR with a good TV is out of this world. Therefore, if you are going to engage in these systems, you need a TV with high-level HDR, if nothing else. And of course, I'm talking about the lighting there. It is phenomenal. We saw HDR first make an appearance in Horizon Zero Dawn, and it was early technology that didn't work. Sometimes the whites were so white you couldn't see anything, and the dark was so dark you couldn't see anything. They've really streamlined this now. It's really obvious that the systems have enough power to really start to play with this, and I can't wait to see into next year when we get games like Control and Cyberpunk with the updates with the ray tracing as well. It is going to be something to behold. So let's stop the love on games there, but I did want to give you some PlayStation and Xbox love in an episode that's been largely, I suppose, about other systems and consoles. But look, we're all gamers, so what is not to love? So that brings us to our Push2Plat Platinum shoutouts for this week. Remember, if you want a shout out, jump in the Discord, post your picture, post a comment, or in the free-to-join community on the PS4. And we're going to start today with Ed the Shed 2014. It's a big one, number 149, 150 milestone, and 151. And he's made it the wonderful Chickens on the Road. Apropos, because it is literally, as the name says, chickens on a road. EU, NA and Asia stack. Whilst doing these, I earned my 5,000th trophy. Congratulations, sir. Gaz Davis drops in with number 72 and his first PS5 plat, Astro's Playroom. Great little title showing off the controller. Boston George, number 194, Maneater. Quick and fun platinum. It really is fun, isn't it? And Scaly Pete, or Nasty Pete as I like to call him, what a fun storyline. Perhaps a little frustrating towards the end, but overall it's well worth an experience. Of course, also, and I believe may already be up-resed or updated in whatever wonderful ways for the PS5 and X Series X. Vigilant Crow, Platinum number 41, Vigilant Crow, Plat 41, COD, Cold War. Wow, sir, that was really quick. Had a blast running around with the chickens that were equipped with grenade launchers. We went after a gorilla who attacked us with a wooden spoon. Oh, and there's something about a Cold War. I didn't pay attention to that though. It's so true, isn't it? It's just multiplayer fun, these games. Congratulations, sir. I'm so tempted to pick this up. I'm only interested in the story, but I can't justify it at the moment. But when I hear things like wooden spoons and chickens, I think, as soon as I finish Chickens on the Road, this has to be the next game for me. I'm Starling on Your Bro, number 234, Hunting Simulator 2. It's funny to think I pushed off HS2 so long due to dreading the first HS. In the end, I actually loved HS and wasn't all that keen on HS2. Other than a relaxing score, improved sounds and better graphics, everything else was a negative. The simulation was made very grindy due to having a money system. You had to buy all equipment. Thank RNG Sus for glitched infinite scent spray, as opposed to unlocking it via completing missions in the original. I suppose unlocking via a mission isn't possible when the simulation lacked a mission system. Wonderful. They also introduced dogs to hunt with. They were about as useless as tits on a bull. The dogs actually made it harder to hunt big game, impossible to hunt rabbits, and were the grindiest part of the simulation. Their experience bars raised slower than the sea level due to the melting ice caps. There was also bullet drop, but unlike its predecessor, you couldn't see bullet trajectory to even know where to aim. At least I'm the fastest achiever for now. If you want to dethrone the Sim King, be careful, as the past person who tried failed. Well, there you go. After that write-up, who couldn't be eager to line up for Dog Simulator 2021? It's wonderful, sir. Congratulations on sticking it out. MZ Nitro drops in. Number 23. You can't get more opposed here. Number 23, Jigsaw Abundance, the wonderful Splat, the wonderful spam title that went splat. Needed a quick plat for the TT event. One of the fastest games. It just needs you to solve 20 puzzles for the plat and should take like 30 minutes to complete. Best Trophy Hunter Ever, CSO. Number 565, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. Harry, your eyesight is truly awful. I'm going to leave that one there. I wonder why though, Harry. I wonder why. Zador VP. And look, this is a big one. This one really interests me. I know it's going to be janky, but I don't mind the jank. Let me tell you what he says. Number 479, Twin Mirror. Don't Nod Entertainment's newest non-exclusive game, which is like a mix between Deadly Premonition, Remember Me, and Heavy Rain. I enjoyed the mystery, although I had guessed the people involved in the crimes early on and solved the entire mystery long before the end. But this is definitely a game that will not appeal to everyone. It's obvious it's not made by the same team that made Life is Strange, from how unpolished and janky it is, although it does still contain a reference to Lisa, the plant from the first Life is Strange. Still, I hope they do make more games like this, as mystery solving is quite fun. Look, sir, if anything, I'm even more intrigued now. I love this studio, Don't Nod. Their Life is Strange, to me, is just getting better and better. I understand it's the B team, but even the B team can hit a janky ball across the fence sometimes. And I think this is a game for a nice glass or 5 of wine and a night in. I can't wait. So listeners, that brings us to the end of another week. Don't forget, if you'd like to be involved in the show, then send in a list of your favourite games you have played and completed this year. They can be across any system and any release date, as long as you've finished them up this year. If you want to put a little comment as well to read, so we can read on the show, please do. You can submit up to 5-10 games maximum is all I ask, and you can do so via PM on the Discord. You can send it to the Push2Plat email or via Twitter, which is all available in the show notes. Go on, have your say. This show, while it appears like one man's talking Muppet egocentrical view... This show, while it may appear like one man's talking Muppet egocentrical trophy fest, is really a community project. We've had guests from all over the world sharing about their games, so now it's your turn. Write in and share about what you enjoyed this year. I hope you all have a wonderful week. May the games be great. May the trophies be kind. May the gamer score be plentiful. What a time to be gaming. What a time to be a trophy hunter. Be good, but not too good. And I'll catch you next week. See you soon. Push2Plat podcasts are conceived, written and edited by CJ Anderson in Adobe Audition. YouTube upload handled by Repurpose.io. Music licensing by Artist.io. Push2Plat would like to thank all our Patreon supporters, with special mention to our Patreon producers Zador VP, Redbeard Rick, Ready to eBeg, and MZ Nitro. Without your support, this show would cease to exist. If you would like to say hi, jump into the Discord in the show notes or on Twitter at Push2Plat. If you're interested in supporting the show, then jump on Patreon, the Push2Plat Patreon, where you can find more information on how to support us and to allow us to continue to bring wonderful guests and topics from around the world.